Welcome back everyone. So in the last video we solved return length of arguments passed, and in this video we are going to solve allow one function call. So let's dive in. Okay, so we are given a function fn. We have to return a new function that is identical to the original function. Okay, so this is the original function fn that is identical to the original function, except that it ensures fn is called at most once. So we have to make sure that this function should only be called at most one time, either 0 or one time. Okay, the first time that return function is called, it should return the same result as fn. Okay, now every subsequent time it is called, it should return undefined. So let's say this is the function. Okay, and now we have to return a new function that is equal to this fn function, but the only thing is that this function should only be called at most one time. Now this function is called the first time with the value of 1 2 3, and 1 2 3 is passed to this function, and the return result is 3 plus 2 5 plus 1 6. So first time it will return the value of 6. Now it is also called second time, and the second time it will return undefined. Okay, so second time it will return undefined. In the example 2, first time it is called with 574, so it will return 140. Second time and third time it has returned undefined and undefined. So now let's solve this question. So this function is called, right? Now what we have to do is we have to use the concept of closures. Okay, now this function is enclosed, so we'll create a variable which is, let's say, invoked, and initially it will be false. Now we have to return a new function that is similar to fn function. That's what we are doing. We are returning a function. So let's say this is a function. So how will you call this function when you want to call? So obviously you will call something like fn, for example 1 2 3 4 5. That's how you are going to call this fn function. And since this accepts 3 values, okay, but it is given in the question that we don't know how many parameters the fn function will accept. It will accept 3 4 5 6 7 1 or none. Okay, so we don't know, and we have to return the exact copy of that function. Just because you know this accept 3 values, you will call this function as 1 2 and 3. But I don't know what that fn function is, because all I know is that the once function is given an fn parameter, and which is believed to be a function. Then we have to create an exact copy. So what we'll do is we'll create an args, that is spread operator args. So what it will do is, no matter what type of parameters this fn function accept, when someone call this return function the same way fn function, it will work exactly like that. So for example, this is once. Okay, so what I will do is I'll call once. Okay, and in that once I will pass this fn, okay. So when I pass this fn inside this once, so what once will do is once will return a new function, that is this function. Since I have called this, so what it will return is, it will return some x function, xyz function. This xyz function also accepts these args, and these args will be same as what you will pass to the fn function. Okay, so you can call this function like this. So let's say fn, you will pass 1 2 3, you can pass 1 2 3. So here the return function is called with parameters 1 2 and 3, and those 1 2 3 will be received in this array. Now what we will do is we will call this function. Which one? First we'll check if invoked, it is already invoked, then we'll return undefined, and we'll mark invoked as 2, and we'll invoke this. So we'll return fn, and we'll pass all the args to this. But there is a problem here. Here let's say fn is accepting like this, but let's say someone passed fn that accepts arguments like this, where a is an array. Okay, so they might be calculating this result in some way, but a is an array that accepts many arguments. Okay, arguments of, like, for example, numbers array. Okay, so we don't know how this fn is accepting arguments. All we did is that we tried to clone the fn function, and what we did is we took all the arguments that we will be passed. So for example, we have called this once with an fn function, this fn, and we have returned a new function. And in the new function, whatever you will pass to me, I will collect that in the args. And now this is the time for me to pass those args to the fn function again. Now these values are collected as an array. Okay, so we collected this as args array. So we collected this something like this. Okay, now we have to pass these args to fn here, fn, but we cannot pass this args array here because args in array, and this fn function accept these values as a comma b comma c. If you will pass this array, then this array is collected inside a, so b and c will be undefined. So there is a function in JavaScript that is function.apply args, and the first value will be null. Now let me explain you this. We call the functions like this. So this is a function, we call this function. But if you want to call it in a different way, so there are two other functions, that is function.bind, function.call, function.apply. So here we'll use apply function. Who will be invoking this function? So for example, if I pass this, so what it will do is, this is an object, so object.fn. Okay, so something like this. All I want to say is, if you pass something here, that value will be accessible inside that function as this. So we don't want any this inside, since we are not using this keyword inside the function, so it will be null. And the second is, it accepts the array of arguments, and we have array of arguments. Okay, make sure. So array of arguments we pass as it is. So what's the structure of this function is, it accepts arguments here in an array, and we are passing that. So what apply function will do is, it will pass all those arguments separately to fn function. So we have this. What apply will do is, apply will pass 1 here, 2 here, and 3 here. Okay, so even if someone is accepting this as an array, then we would have collected this inside something like this. So this array will be passed to this. So what we are trying to do is, we have collected everything as an array, and then we made sure that we'll pass these argument to the function not as an array, but in a way that the fn is separate. So let's see if the solution can pass the test case or not. So both the test case has been passed. Now we will try to submit this. Okay, so our solution got accepted. Now let me explain you once again. It is said that the function should only be called once. So we have created a closure variable which will be enclosed by this function. Now this function will see if it has already been invoked, then we'll return undefined. But if it is not invoked, then we'll make the variable as invoked true, and then we'll call this function with all the arguments we have received. So what we did is, we will call this function something like this. So this once is collected inside once function, and then once function is called like this. So let's see this example only. So once is called with the fn, and we don't know how the fn is accepting the parameters. And as per the given example, once accept a, b, and c. Okay, so now this once function we will call this once with fn. So what it will do is, it will return a new function, and since this function don't know how fn is going to accept, it will just simply accept all those arguments inside an array, that is args. Now we call this function, this is a new function. This new function is this function. This accept everything 1, 2, 3 or whatever you pass inside this args array. Now when you call this once function, what it will do is, it will first check these, then it will apply these args to this function. So the array which we have collected in args, it passed to fn function as separate arguments. Okay,